So I guess I'll get started first. For those of you who haven't met with me yet, my name is Stephanie Myers. I am the major advisor for food science and technology. I have been an academic advisor on campus for about 5 years, but I've been with this department for 1 year. My 1 year anniversary was August 26th, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited to have y'all with us. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, and I'm Liz. I am the viticulture and enology major advisor, and I have been working for UC Davis for a little bit over 5 years, but I joined the department in May, and so I joined remotely. So a similar experience to probably what some of you, as you're beginning your classes remotely and like joining UC Davis remotely, I can kind of empathize with you a little bit about starting something new remotely, and it's a really unique experience, but we're here to support you and we're here to help, and we're excited that you're able to join us today. So this is just a slide for the agenda. We are here with our faculty advisors. We have Allison Mitchell, who's with the Food Science and Technology Department, and then we have Hildegard Heyman here from Viticulture and Enology. They'll both be doing just kind of like a quick overview of what faculty advisors do, and then they'll have a little bit of time for a Q&A afterwards. So if you haven't yet, if you could please mute your microphones just during the presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A. And if you have questions, you can just put them in the chat and we can address them then. All right, Allison, do you want to share your screen?
Oh, sure. You want me to go ahead and go?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I think you have to stop sharing first.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, and then I keep getting asked questions. Okay. Okay. See if I can put this in slideshow mode. There we go. Okay, so can everybody see that all right? Yeah, okay. So my name's Allison Mitchell, and I'm a professor and food chemist in the Department of Food Science and Technology, and I'm also the master advisor for the Food Science undergraduate program. A little about me, I gotta move the people over to the side, just so you know who I am. My favorite things to do, at least at work, are to teach students how to measure things in food. Doesn't matter what I measure in food, as long as I'm measuring something. I like to measure bioactive compounds, so those are all the antioxidants and flavonoids and things you hear about. But I guess my favorite thing to measure would be toxins, but I also like to measure food additives, vitamins, dyes. Again, it doesn't really matter as long as I'm measuring something. The tools that I use to measure things in food are gas chromatography, liquid chromatography, and mass spectroscopy. I actually am one of those people that really love standard curves, internal standards, and optimizing methods. And don't worry if none of this makes sense to you, because I'm going to teach this to you all in FST 103, which is food analysis. When I'm not at work, I like to do a lot of different things. I really love traveling. I like urban hiking. I like hiking in the forest too, biking, playing guitar, cooking, and during the pandemic, I took up a new hobby, painting, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. I have a cat who rules our universe. His name is Ziggy, and then also 3 daughters. My oldest daughter is an alternative health clinic manager and a new mom. My youngest daughter is a freshman at UC Santa Cruz in legal studies. And then my middle daughter is a junior in, I think, playwriting and theater. It keeps changing, at UC San Diego. Okay, so what's a master advisor? Why am I important to you, and why is it important for you to know a little bit about what a master advisor does? The master advisor is basically the academic leader of the undergraduate major. So I work with faculty in the college and also college leadership to keep the FST major continually refined and up to date so that we can provide you with highest academic quality degree that you can get in food science. My personal goal as a master advisor is to give you the best possible experience in your chosen major. Make sure that you graduate in a timely manner so that the classes are available and interesting to you, and that you are competitive when you hit the current job market. The food science major, I'm just going to talk about that because I don't know as much about VE. But the food science major is kind of, I see it as two parts. Your first part is year 1 and 2, and in your first couple of years, you're focusing on lower division scientific literacy courses. So these are your basic chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, microbiology, math, physics, stats. A lot of you may be transfer students, and so you've taken much of these courses at the junior college and done your first 2 years at the junior college. Your second 2 years kind of define your major. These are your upper division courses in food science for our major. And food science is a degree that has several core areas, so it's what we would call a multidisciplinary degree. And we expect that by the time you leave, you have a high amount of literacy in food chemistry, food microbiology, food safety, food engineering and processing, and sensory science. So there's a lot for you to learn in your last 2 years in our major, which is great. It may seem a little bit overwhelming, but it's really one of the types of degrees that when you leave our program, you're going to know a lot about a lot of different areas of science. One of the things that can help you as you're coming into the major is to try and identify your interest early, because that can help you select your restrictive electives. And I really encourage you to reach out to Stephanie Myers. She is the person that can really help you pick the right classes. So for example, if you decide early on that you're interested in food chemistry, she can help you find restricted electives, help you fit them into your schedule so that by the time you finish your degree, you have taken multiple classes in food chemistry and have a broad understanding of that. Same thing with if you're interested in something like food microbiology. She can help direct you to the right classes so that you have an emphasis in that area. So again, reach out to Stephanie. It should be your best friend during the next 4 years. She'll probably kill me for saying that. Oh, good, she's giving me the thumbs up. Okay. So what does the master advisor, what can I help you with? Well, I'm kind of in the background with the 30,000 foot view. Stephanie and Liz are our boots on the ground. They're the ones that work with you all the time. What I do is I approve student petitions, I approve major modifications, I do final degree certifications, I approve 192 internships. So these are internships that you would do off campus. So like if you were doing an internship with a business. If you're planning to do an internship, and I do encourage everybody to do internships, not as soon as you get here, I'll mention that in a minute, but if you're doing an internship with a faculty member, that's a 199 internship, and you would arrange that directly with that faculty member. I think internships are extraordinarily valuable experiences for you, especially if you're planning later on to go to graduate school. It's good to do internships. Internships help you get letters of reference and recommendation, and obviously internships and research can help you when you're applying to graduate schools. But when you're coming to campus, either as a transfer student, and I came as a transfer student, I went to Diablo Valley College and I actually transferred to Davis. So I understand what it's like coming from a semester system to a quarter system. That's stressful. I also understand what it's like coming from a junior college to a university. That's stressful. I also know what it's like to just start something like as a freshman somewhere, and that's stressful. So your first quarter here, you got a lot going on. Your job is just to figure out the university and how it works, how a quarter system works, how to get your feet under you. So don't worry about internships in your first or second quarters. I wouldn't even really worry about them in your first year. Save those for when you have a little bit of expertise in dealing with the university and you feel good about all of the things that you're doing here and you understand how everything works. You'll be much more successful in those internships and be able to develop better relationships with the faculty if you wait a little bit. Master advisors also review and approve study abroad course articulation. So if you are planning to do a study abroad, I know that's probably the wrong topic for this year, but in future years when things are back to normal, if you are planning study abroad courses, we have several universities like Wageningen that we work with, and we have courses that you can take there that articulate with our courses here. And again, if you're planning to do any study abroad, start discussing that with Stephanie Myers early on so that she can help make sure that you are all lined up in your curriculum. Fun stuff that master advisors get to do. Well, we get to participate in campus, college, and departmental student events and activities. So you might see us out there at orientation day or decision day or career nights, social events, awards, and things like that. We will walk you through commencement ceremony, whether you decide to go through commencement in winter or spring. And I always make the joke that we can get the pictures that your parents can't get. For example, this is the 2018 class of food science graduates, and then this is as they were walking across the floor, and I'm standing here with them, leading them in, and I turned around and took their picture for them. So that was kind of a fun thing. Also, I'm available to meet with students in the program to discuss needs and general recommendations for the program. Really, all academic advising should come from Stephanie, but if you're having special problems with something, or you see something that the program could be doing better, that's when you can reach out to me, and I'm here to listen to you. I look forward to actually getting to know all of you. And that's really all I had to say. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. The reason I'm here is because of you guys, and so I look forward to meeting you all.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Thank you. So you can go.
I just want to thank Allison, and another reminder, we are going to have a Q&A panel at 10:30. So our next presentation is going to come from Professor Hildegard Heyman, who is the Master Faculty Advisor for Viticulture and Enology.
Hi, so first of all, Allison made very nice slides and I didn't. But everything Allison said about the Master Advisor for Food Science is true for the Master Advisor for Viticulture and Enology. Similar to Food Science, the first 2 years in the VNE program, you are getting the basics, and the last 2 years, you are basically doing the winemaking and viticulture parts. Similarly to Allison, I approve 192 internships. Similar to Allison, I think you should wait on internships if you're a freshman until you've kind of got your life together. Most of our students do some form of an internship, either in their senior year or in the summer between their junior and senior year. A lot of students who don't want to take a quarter off will do a sparkling wine harvest because that ends before school starts. And many students do internships after they graduate. We actually have a whole bunch of internship scholarships that allow students to do internships either in the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere after graduation. Currently, none of those things are actually functional, but we're hoping that by the time you guys get to internships, things will be a little more functional. So let me talk a little bit about me. I am a professor in the Viticulture and Enology department. I'm also a sensory scientist, which means that I work on smelling and tasting of wine. I am weird in the V&E department in the sense that I am the only faculty member who has an undergraduate degree in viticulture and enology. So I wanted to be a winemaker and had worked as a winemaker, then decided in order to get ahead, I needed a master's degree. So I came to Davis to do that master's degree. And the plan was to go back and be a winemaker. And then I had to take a class that I didn't need to take because my roommate wanted to take a class and she said she needed a friend. And I walked into Rosemary Pangborn's sensory class, Food Science 107. And 4 weeks later, I vividly remember this. I sat in class and I looked at Professor Pangborn and I went, that is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it took a few years, but here we are, and I am literally doing exactly what I planned that day. So the reason I'm telling you this story is we sometimes have a path that we're on, and then something happens and the path goes totally in a different direction. And life, I think, is more interesting when you follow the path, whatever that path is. And I absolutely love what I do. I would have been a horrible winemaker if I'd stayed in the industry. I would have been too safe. I would have not wanted to take risks. I live with my husband and 2 spoiled, rotten cats who, for the first few months of stay at home, every morning I think sat there and looked at us and went, why are you guys not going to work? Why are you still here? And now, after 6 months of us being here, when we walk out of the house to go for a 20-minute walk, when we come back, they go, why did you leave us? Why did you leave us? So you can never make them happy, but they are spoiled. And every so often, if somebody is taking 124 from me this fall, you may see or hear a cat decide that the microphone or the keyboard is an interesting place. And that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Professor. So I know you all are here to get some more information. So we're going to open up some Q&A for Professor Heyman and Professor Mitchell. And I know some of you might be a little shy. So we do have some questions that we can kind of get us started. Stephanie, you wanna?
I don't see the Q&A on my side of the screen, but do they have the raise your hand option?
They have the raise their hand option, and then if you do have questions, you can type it in the chat. So, and I'll just put a little, ask your questions here.
I hope you guys have some questions.
Well, I can start out with a few questions as people start to think and process about questions they might have. But Allison, I know you mentioned that, and I agree that students should wait before participating in an internship. But this question is more for transfer students who typically have 2 years before they graduate. So if they wait that first year, they might feel the pressure of just finding opportunities that are available in their lab. So does your advice differ for transfer students as compared to freshmen?
So my advice for transfer students is a little bit different. I highly recommend that they take their first quarter and do nothing but coursework and kind of figure out how the university works, because the transfer student has different, they've got a different set of things that they are dealing with. They're dealing with harder classes and usually a faster pace. But transfer students are also really clever at figuring out how to hit the ground running, I've noticed too. So I just tell them to make sure that they get their feet under them. I recommend that they start looking for an internship in the spring quarter of their first year. That gives them enough time that if they find, like for example, I have a lot of students that come to my lab in the spring quarter of their junior year, and then they stay on through their sophomore year. So it gives them almost a whole year of working with me. And that way I really can can work with them. I get to know them. My students get to know them. They get maybe on a manuscript or do a research project, and they get to do a poster. We have an undergraduate campus poster event, which is a lot of fun. And the departments, students within the department present their posters, and there's like all these students, and it's just a real fun day. So I would wait. I definitely don't think a transfer student should take that on in their first quarter, maybe even their second quarter. I'd wait till the third quarter.
Thank you, Allison. It looks like we do have a few questions in the chat. Okay. So Alana would like to know, is it okay to not be living with people from our department?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually think that just living with it depends on your personality, but if you just live with people who are in your department, it can get very boring. If you live with people who are also studying other things, it's much more interesting. As I just told from my little story, I never needed to take a food science class. I took that food science class because my roommate, who was not in VNE, took that class. So I absolutely think it's no problem.
I would have to say I agree. I lived with a friend, and I actually took an entomology class that she talked me into taking. And I realized very early on that I have no interest in entomology. So, but it expanded my horizons. I actually know a lot about bugs. And so there you have it. So yeah, try new things, and living with a range of people just broadens your experience in life.
And Fiona would like to know, how do we decide our minors?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think this is, Liz, do you want to answer this question from a major advisor perspective?
Yeah, so I think, so UC Davis, we have there's a web page that actually lists all the possible minors that you could have. And so not every major you can actually get a minor in. Like for viticulture and enology, there's no minor for that. And so some of the things that I would tell a student to consider when they're thinking about a minor, well, how does it relate to their major? If you're thinking maybe one day you want to run the business end of a vineyard, or something more on the business side, then maybe you want to have a minor in economics, which is kind of a popular minor for some of our students. And so what I would say is, if you're considering a minor, you probably want to look at the webpage at UC Davis to actually see if there is one first. And then you can definitely schedule a meeting with Stephanie or I, depending on what your major is. And we can discuss how that minor would play a role in your education. And I think minors are a great way just to kind of broaden the scope of your education, depending if you're here for an incoming transfer student or incoming freshman. There's a little bit more time to complete. So that's always a factor to think about. But if you really want to just kind of branch out, which I think your undergraduate or your time as an undergraduate student is about, taking different types of classes, not necessarily just, focusing on your major courses necessarily, but thinking about other things that you might like to do. Because as Professor Heyman shared, sometimes you'll get roped into this class and you won't be thinking anything of it. And then all of a sudden, this is your new passion in life. So I think that's kind of where I feel from my perspective on minors. Stephanie will probably knows this a little bit better than I, but there is a cap on how many classes that you can take that will overlap with a major and a minor. So you are limited. You can't, if you're a food science major, you can't minor in viticulture and enology because our classes overlap for our programs really closely. So that's kind of why, after you pick out something that you would like to pursue, I would advise you to talk to us so that we can discuss and look at those details and those policies with you.
Thank you, Liz. The next question is from Litzy. How early should we talk to our advisors if we are thinking about studying abroad? And I think I could answer this question for you. As soon as you decide that you want to study abroad, you should talk to your advisor. And I think you have more flexibility now because of certain travel restrictions. There may be programs that are going to be offered next summer, but with the pandemic, it's a little too early to find out. So I would work with you and coordinate with the study abroad office just to make sure that before you pursue that program, that we can count some of those courses towards your major if applicable. It's important to get that approval before you join the program so that you kind of know what you're getting into. So talk to me or your advisor before you kind of get started with that process so we can make sure that you're optimizing that experience to study abroad. Okay. Now, Catherine has a question about the Food Tech Club. We are going to have our students present about that later. The question is Food Tech Club a large time commitment? Let me see, I'm trying to read here. Is it something we should wait to join until winter and spring? Again, this is something that our Food Tech Club presenters can touch on, but it's not really a large time commitment. If anything, it's an additional resource. So they bring in a lot of guest speakers from industry. They have a lot of student events. And again, with the pandemic and things being in person or remote in fall quarter, that's going to look a little different. And so hang tight. We're going to have that Food Tech Club presentation starting at 11:05. And so they could talk a little bit more about that.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
I would just like to encourage everybody that's in food science to join the Food Science Tech Club for multiple reasons, and they'll tell you more about the club. But it's a great social connection for you, and this is where you can make friends, meet students that have taken classes before you get an understanding of what's ahead for you. It's a great group to join. And the more social connections, especially now that you can make, the better off you'll be, because it is, as Stephanie said, it's a resource for you. So it's not really a time sink as much as it's a way to meet like-minded students, get more information, form study groups, have a good time. They do things like trivia nights and things like that. It's just, it's more fun than anything else.
Yeah. And so I got a private message, and this kind of relates to clubs, student clubs too. For viticulture and enology, what are some good ways to get involved? Would you recommend trying to get involved or simply just focus in classes and worry about involvement later? So I'll just answer a quick answer, and then I'll give Professor Heyman a moment to follow up. So viticulture and enology, we have two clubs. We have Devo and Vitus, and Devo will be coming and presenting a little bit later along with the Food Tech Club. So we do have that presentation coming up. But Professor Heyman, is there another way for viticulture and enology students, like good way for them to get involved within the industry?
Absolutely, Devo and Vitus. If you're under 21, Devo is fine. They do a lot of things for under 21. For Vitus, you have to be 21 because they actually taste. Now that, luckily for us in classes, we can taste because there's an exception to the rule. If you're under 21, you just have to be 18. Although, unless we have face-to-face classes, we're not going to be tasting anything. But yeah, I would suggest the sooner you get involved in Devo, if you're under 21, and the sooner you get involved in both, if you're over 21, is actually very useful. It's a great way of meeting people. They did a whole bunch of stuff during spring on Zoom to make sure that people stayed together and moving forward. So I would absolutely do that. We have a couple of other V&E questions here. Do we need to take certain languages? If you plan on doing a harvest in a foreign country where they do not speak English, I am strongly going to encourage you to take the foreign language for that country. There is nothing as horrible as being in a winery and not understanding anything anybody is saying to you. It's not very helpful. It's not very safe. So if you know that you're going to want to work in France or Spain or Germany, then you better get started on taking French or Spanish or German. Do many V&E students try to fulfill the pre-med requirements? We have about one or two every year who do this. It is a wonderful undergraduate major for pre-med, because there's not a lot of extra classes you need in order to do the pre-med. We've had students go to dental school from here. We've had students go to medical school from here. Food science is another undergraduate major that has all the things you need except for anatomy and physiology, essentially, to go to medical school. I have been teaching either here or in Missouri for about 35 years. And I know of about 20 doctors who went through either VNE or food science, and they've all been very successful in medical school. One of the nice things about doing either of these programs as your pre-med is that if you decide at some point you don't actually want to go to medical school, you have a career in front of you, regardless of going to medical school. Also, somebody asked about whether you're going to get boxed with food science and viticulture and enology. And again, I don't see that because it's such a broad degree, at least in the VNE side, food sciences is true as well. People go off and do all kinds of amazing things with this degree that is not directly related to making wine or directly related to making food, but their backgrounds are strong enough in chemistry and stats and all these other things to branch off into all kinds of very interesting places.
Thank you. And so I just wanted to add with the language for viticulture and enology, do you need to take certain languages? You don't have to, it's not required, but like Professor Heyman said, if you are thinking about studying abroad, that's great. And certain foreign language classes do fit into your restricted elective requirements. So if you are thinking about studying abroad, if you are thinking about going to a different country and doing an internship, then I would definitely recommend taking foreign language classes in the country that you're hoping to go to. And then we could also discuss how those classes will fit into your restricted elective requirement for the major.
And I would just like to add, for those of you who are interested in pre-health, there is a campus resource called Health Professions Advising. And so we would coordinate with that group to make sure that you are completing those prerequisites for medical or dental school and incorporating them into your academic plan for the major. And so these, like for example, for food science, you only need to take Biz 2A, which is cellular biology. But if you're going to medical school, you may need the full Biz 2 series. And so I would work with you to incorporate those courses into your academic plan, just so that you are staying on track. Okay, so let us know if you're interested in that route, and we could definitely help you get on that career track.
Can I say something about that, Stephanie? And that's the same thing why it's really important to work with Stephanie early on as you start to decide what you want to do. You know, in terms of your restricted electives, or if you are planning on either double majoring or taking a minor. For example, if your minor, let's say you're interested in food science research and development and your real interest is in food chemistry, and you've decided that you want to minor in chemistry, well then the chemistry classes that are required for the major may not be the same ones that are required for a minor in chemistry and the major. And so that's why it's critical for you to talk to Stephanie and talk to her often as you go through these different pathways and ideas, because she's really the person that can point you to the right courses for all of these different combinations. I mean, there's every one of you, when you finish, will have taken different classes and have different objectives and a little bit different spin on your degree. And so that's why your academic advisor, this is the same with viticulture and enology too, and Liz, your academic major advisor is such a critical person in your success and you achieving and getting the classes that you want.
Thank you, Allison.
We have a lot of questions about double major. Do you think, I think we should address them because they kind of overlap. So one of the questions is, can food science and technology majors also double majors with viticulture and enology majors? Stephanie, do you want to answer that one?
Yes. So unfortunately, that would be difficult to do. The campus policy states that you cannot overlap more than 2 upper division courses between a double major, and you cannot overlap more than 1 upper division course between a major and a minor. For example, with food science and viticulture, they both require biochemistry. This is Biz 102 and Biz 103. So that already meets that overlap limit. But in addition to that, you may have to take, I think you have to take, what's the other, microbiology. So Mike 102 would be a 3rd overlap, which immediately disqualifies a student from double majoring. Now, this is an official double major. That does not mean you cannot take certain courses in viticulture and enology if you're interested in that career path. If you're a freshman or even a transfer and you're interested in taking intro to winemaking, that might be a course you could use and apply towards your general elective requirement. So this is something we could talk about a little bit more. A lot of people are interested in nutrition. A lot of students in the food science major may want to do something in nutrition. And what's the unique thing about our program is that with our restricted elective requirement, you could take nutrition courses as a part of your restricted electives, but you can't get that minor, right? So you're still getting the classes and you're getting experience in that. It's just difficult to get the official minor. The other thing I would like to mention is that with double majors, you have to be very careful and talk to us as soon as possible. With both viticulture and food science, a lot of our upper division courses are only offered once a year. So if you add on a minor or double major, you might potentially be extending your time to graduation to fit in all of those requirements. So talk to us, let us know what you're interested in, and we could help you figure out the best path to get there.
Yeah, and I think for a double major too, there's caps. There's a cap on how many units that you can take that the College of Agriculture and Environmental Science will actually approve. So we want to make sure that you don't get over that cap. Otherwise, it won't be approved. And then, as Stephanie said, for restricted electives, for viticulture and enology, there's a lot of food science and technology courses that are part of the restricted electives. And so the restricted electives, I think probably the faculty advisors could probably describe restricted electives better. But for restricted electives, there's kind of like a list of classes that students can take traditionally closer to their upper division, by the time they get to their junior or senior year. But then you can kind of dabble in these other language, food science, technology courses. There's a whole list of classes. And so if you're interested in that, or if you want to start planning it on it, then you can contact the advisors and we can send you information on that.
Okay. Liz, do you want to ask the next?
Yeah.
I kind of lost track.
I know, there's a lot.
Oh,
Would specializing in sensory make it difficult to transition to research and development later on?
So,
Professor Heyman, you're muted.
yeah, I was going to say,
The answer is no, because that is what sensory is. It's mostly in research and development in most companies.
it's a component part of any food item that's made. And so sensory is an integral part of research and development.
Yeah, I would say that there's a minority of companies where a little bit of sensory is done in quality assurance, but most of the time it's part of research and development.
Mm-hmm. If you want to do formulation, product formulation and things like that, then you'd probably want to lean more towards food chemistry than sensory. But being able to understand sensory, because I have learned over the years that it doesn't matter. I mean, what matters the most actually is the sensory attribute of a food at the end of the day, or a wine, I'm assuming. And so understanding sensory is really, really important for creating good food. So I just don't think you could tease the two apart.
I just want to chime in. I know Professor Mitchell has to leave a little early today, but I think this is a really great question from Sharon, who says, what is the difference between food science and nutrition? She's still debating between the two majors. Can you give us some insight about that, Allison?
Sure.
Dr. Mitchell?
Sure, Sharon, everybody asks this question and everybody confuses the two disciplines. This is an ongoing thing, but there is a real big difference. I actually did my postdoc in nutrition, and nutrition focuses on the utilization of nutrients. So macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fat, and micronutrients, all of your vitamins. How do these impact the body? What are the levels that we should be ingesting? How are they metabolized? How can we improve childhood nutrition, international nutrition, global nutrition? So it deals more with the metabolic fate of macro and micronutrients in foods, and keeping people healthy. And obviously specialized nutrition. How do you feed an infant? How do you feed an athlete? How do you feed a pregnant woman or maybe somebody that's got some type of disease? Food science makes foods and develops foods. So food science focuses on how do we make a food, how do we keep it safe? So it involves the formulation, the stabilization of the food, how do we package it, how do we store it, how do we process it, how do we turn tomatoes into tomato sauce? You know, what are all the processes that are involved in that? And then how do we keep it safe? How do we make foods for astronauts and people that are living at the space station? Or how do we make foods that will make it through battlefields? That's what food science is. So it's more of the science of the production of foods.
Thank you, Allison. I know I like to think of it as a sort of farm to fork process. So the moment you put the food in your mouth, we're talking nutrition, you know? Yeah. And then everything between, say, the agriculture part and nutrition is food science.
That's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Allison. This next question, I think Dr. Heyman can answer, which is, what careers can be pursued with an undergraduate degree in VNE? And then I have a follow-up question to that, which is, in this current climate, is it difficult to find a job in winemaking or viticulture?
Okay, so let's start with the jobs first. Obviously, winemaking, most of our students start out as enologists in the lab, and then they become assistant winemakers and winemakers. We have students who go into the viticulture side, where they work with either viticulture management companies, or they work for a winery that owns their own vineyards, and they work their way up there. We have students who go into the selling side. They become somms. They may work in wine stores. We have had students who've become wine writers. We have a couple of our students, one of them now created an app that is one of the most used databases in the wine industry. They may go into research and development, working either for companies like ETS, which does a lot of the analyses for the wine industry, or they may go work for companies that provide additives and ingredients like Lafort or Guzmer or those kind of people. They may go work for packaging companies. They may go work for cork companies, anything that has anything to do in the broader sense of wine and viticulture. But they can also totally walk outside of that, because we have so much biochemistry and other things that they can actually go work in research labs for Genentech and things like that. So it's a pretty widely, it doesn't have to stay in wine if that's not what you want to do. The other question that somebody had was about brewing beer. Actually, there are a beer brewing course in food science, 102 and 102A. And a lot of enology students take that class, and also obviously a lot of food science students take that class. Now, the second question about the jobs. If you had asked me this question 12 months ago, I would have told you there's absolutely no problems in finding jobs, because there wasn't. At this point, I have not the faintest. If you look at the mess that is currently Napa Valley, I do know a lot of our interns that are working this fall are probably going to be out of a job in the next day or so if they still have a home. Many of our students would do a northern hemisphere harvest and then a southern hemisphere harvest and then a northern hemisphere harvest and then settle down. That obviously is not going to happen in the next year. So in the short term, I think just the industry, just like any other industry, is going to suffer from the COVID situation. But on top of that, we also have had all these fires in the west coast of the US and also in Australia in January, February. So most of you, if you're freshmen, hopefully in 4 years from now, this is all a nightmare and it's gone. If you're a transfer student, maybe it's going to be a little more stressful. But the long-term prospects, if we look down the line, not tomorrow or the next week, but down the line, I don't see it being a problem. But that's all I can say because I just don't know.
Thank you, Professor Heyman. I have one more question, and I know Professor Mitchell might need to leave. One of the students was asking about undergraduate research and how do they get involved in undergraduate research, and at what time would that be a good time to start?
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about that, and I think that most of us would agree that undergraduate research should probably not start in your first couple of years because you're really focusing on your core courses then, and that it's better to put it off until your second and third year or third and fourth year. If you're a transfer student, give yourself a couple of quarters before you try to jump into undergraduate research.
We do have a faculty directory on our website. And so what I encourage you to do is talk to your professors, not just for food science or viticulture, but there's a lot of overlap with plant sciences or microbiology department. You could branch out and talk to instructors just to get their input on research opportunities. Some research opportunities will count as credit towards your major, but it's not a requirement to graduate. It's strongly recommended if you're considering graduate school, but again, it's not necessarily a requirement to get your undergraduate degree. So we can work with you to find the best options that are available. But for now, I think going to office hours, asking questions, maybe looking at our faculty directory webpage to see what research options they're working on, and then familiarize yourself with their publications. I think that's a great place to start. And then as you build on that, maybe you'll be more prepared to work in their lab. We do have a representative from the Internship and Career Center this afternoon who could talk more about the ICC resources. Thank you, Allison. Who could talk more about getting involved through campus. And so we'll get more information about that later this afternoon. So we still have Professor Heyman with us. I do want to utilize this time wisely. So are there any other questions about the viticulture and enology program?
Yeah, we have one here on biosci from Dylan. Would it be just as easy to go into the wine industry with a biosci major and a VNE postgrad as a pure VNE? Yeah, the industry actually makes no differentiation between a master's and a bachelor's. If you know that you want to go into VNE, I would go with a bachelor's because you don't need to pay for a master's. That's not going to get you any more money. But if for some other reason you think you really do want to have the option of a biosci undergraduate degree, then obviously you can do one and then do the other.
I see this question, is it reasonable to consider adding precision agriculture minor with the viticulture and enology major?
Yes, if you are interested in the viticulture side, that's an absolutely reasonable minor to add. There's more and more of, especially the larger wineries who have lots of vineyards, or the viticulture management companies are using precision ag. And so this would be a great additional piece of information for you to have. Do many students get an opportunity to work in the research winery? Letitia hires somewhere between 6 and 10 interns every year. And some of them are only for the fall, and some of them go longer than the fall. It somewhat depends on how much wine she's supposed to make that year and how busy she is. But if you are interested in working as a research intern in the winery, I would suggest you want to talk to Letitia, say February or so, when she starts thinking about the next year. I wouldn't talk to her now. She would probably kill you. She's way too busy to deal. And she currently has her full crop of interns, but I would probably get on her radar as early as possible, say February, March of next year.
And Letitia, I forget her last name, but she is the winery manager, I believe.
Yeah, she's our winery. She's our winemaker.
Winemaker.
Chacon Rodriguez.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Her last name is Chacon Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. And I know for a lot of our freshmen, they're thinking about general electives, right? Which courses should they take? And I know some of the advice that I give is to be strategic, right? It's nice to take Introduction to Witches, but I'm not sure how that's going to relate to your degree or, you know, prepare you for a future career. So do you have any suggestions about how students should choose GEs?
My suggestion, and this is based on my personality, is take the hard stuff first. So if you do know you want to take Introduction to Witches, put that aside and take it in your last year when you've done all the hard stuff. You've eaten the stuff you don't really want to eat, and now you're eating the stuff you really want to eat. So I very strongly suggest that you try to get those prereqs and stuff out of the way as fast as possible. From a viticulture perspective, sensory is 125 and it's in the spring. I strongly encourage students to take it in the spring of their junior year. It would make the spring of your senior year a much better experience when you're not having the hell of that on top of everything else. However, in order to do that, you have to take stats in your sophomore year. So that means you need to get your act together and take that stats class. If you take the stats class, you take sensory in the junior year, suddenly the spring of your senior year is open for Introduction to Witches and anything else you want to be taking. So I really believe that the sooner you get done with the stuff that is the prereqs for other stuff and the difficult stuff, the physics, the math, the whatever, then the fun stuff happens later. But that's my personality.
Are there any other questions for Professor Heyman?
If not, some of you who are transfers, I will probably see in 124 and 124L tomorrow. And for the rest of you, I'll see you in a few years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Professor Heyman.
Thank you. Thank you. And some of you, I think some of you might have put in some specific questions in here too. And if it's something that we lost and we weren't able to answer, you're always welcome to email Stephanie or I. You're always welcome to make appointments. There was one question in here where like how do you follow up with us and to do that. And there's actually an appointments website that the university uses and that our departments use. And I'm gonna put that in the chat here. But you can usually find our schedules and you can see, you know, food science and technology advisor, viticulture and enology advisor. So this appointment system is the main system that we use for students to make appointments with us and to see us. And it's the same thing with when you're meeting with the dean's office in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. They use the same appointment system as well. So if you have questions that are related to your major requirements, Stephanie and I are the advisors for that. If you have questions about general education requirements, then you would talk to the dean's office and their advising staff. But that's the link that you would use.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we just completed our first portion for this morning, which is the faculty presentations and Q&A panel. This next session is going to be with the student peer advisors and the club presenters, student clubs. And so we are going to shift. After a 5-minute break, I want you all to kind of take a step away from the computer, use the bathroom, get a drink of water, coffee or tea, play with your cat. And then we'll come back in a few minutes, around 11:05, for our next portion, which is the student group presentations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Melina. I think I see your question, what happens in Zoom from 2 to 4? There's going to, so from 2 to 4, we're going to have the internship and career center presentation. There's going to be a Kahoot trivia game with the student groups. And then we're going to have another presentation from the department chairs for food science and viticulture and enology. So I really encourage everyone to stick around for that. These people basically run the department. And so they have some great advice for you and helpful tips for a successful first quarter. Maihan, Marai, Mackenzie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I think that's Marai, Maihan, and Mackenzie.
I'm here.
Okay. We're just going to get your presentation set up. We're going to start with the food science. I think Liz is going to get that set up for us.
So let me see. Actually,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. You're co-host, so if you want to, you can actually share.
Okay, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, that's probably easier.
Okay, so I'll just pull up my screen right now.
We had a few questions for the Food Tech Club this morning, so I think we're gonna have a bit of some questions after the presentation.
Same thing for Devo.
So, Mariah, do you want to start off? We can introduce ourselves.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. My name is Marai. I am a food science undergrad and the vice president of Food Tech Club.
And my name is Maihan. I'm a food science senior and the peer advisor for the major. And I am the external relations chair for Food Tech Club. So to start off, we'll be giving a presentation on Food Tech Club, which is the club for the food science major at UC Davis.
So Food Tech Club is the UC Davis chapter of IFT Student Association. Our chapter is committed to offering resources for future food scientists by hosting guest lecture events, industry tours, and so much more. Food Tech Club has over 60 active members, with majority being food science undergrads. In most of our general meetings, we'll invite guest lecturers to host the meetings. Guest speakers range from UC Davis FST faculty members to food industry players. From these meetings, our students learn about the specific aspects of the food industry. Some guest speakers talk about the career prospects within the food industry, giving tips on higher education, resume cover letters, tips, interview tips, elevator pitch, and so much more. We hope to connect students with people who have been involved in the food industry world, whether it's academia setting or industrial setting.
So Food Tech Club, we plan a lot of industry tours where we visit food companies across Northern California. So this includes product development firms, food manufacturers, and food testing laboratories. So some of the really cool ones that we've visited in the past include Impossible Foods, Just Inc., Cliff Bar. So while we're there, we're able to see what it's like working at the company, as well as connect with the employees. A lot of them are UCD alumni, and we arrange all the carpools there too, so you don't really have to worry about getting there. With COVID, we do have to stop some of the tours, but we really hope to resume once everything gets better. Yeah, so these are just some of the other places that we've visited in the past. And with our connections, we're also able to get into exclusive events, and some of them include the Cultured Meat Symposium, where we can learn about the plant-based movement. And there's also IFT, which is the the international meeting for the Institute of Food Technologists. So that was in New Orleans last time, so we went all the way over there. And one of my favorite events is the Winter Fancy Food Show. So there you have thousands of vendors showcasing their innovative products. So you get to ask them questions and network with them. And there's just a lot of free samples. So I would look forward to that. Right.
Typically, every quarter, we host food demos for our students. Last year, we went to Apple Hill to pick apples with FSGSA, the grad student group, for the apple pie demo. And due to COVID, we're not able to host our regular in-person demos, but we're planning to do a cooking demo on Zoom this year. This year in Food Tech Club, we made an active effort to give back to our community. Besides our yearly picnic day ice cream activities, we expanded our volunteering to Food Recovery Network and YOLO Food Bank to provide food for the unprivileged communities.
So having a strong relationship with the Northern California Institute of Food Technologists, which is the Northern California subsection of IFT, we do a lot of collaboration with them. So they usually speak at our meetings, and they also provide scholarships for students and host resume workshops. And they also invite us to their events, such as the Suppliers Night and Holiday Dinner. And there we're able to connect with food industry professionals across Northern California. And we also want to provide opportunities to connect students with faculty. So in the past, we've done a chop cooking challenge. We also have an annual holiday mixer at the end of fall quarter. And the food science department also has a leadership board consisting of senior food industry members that we can also try to connect you with. And also, FTC members, we participate in a variety of competitions, such as IFT's College Bowl, which focuses on food science trivia. There's also other competitions like the research and video competitions from IFT. And there's also product development competitions where you would collaborate with the team to kind of design and try to commercialize an innovative food product. So these competitions are national level, and you can gain a lot of cool product development experience. And some of our teams in the past have actually placed in these competitions. If you're interested, we can help you form a team and also provide some guidance on these competitions.
I would just like to add really quick that some of you may have received an email to register for an FST 198 course. This is related to, I believe, the food competitions, right, Maihan? And so you can get academic units for that course. So check your email. That information is available there.
And of course, none of these events would have happened without our talented executive board and faculty advisors. If you guys have any questions about anything, our board members are always here to help. So our first general meeting includes representatives from the NCIFT, the Northern California Food Technologists, as well as an introduction from Linda Harris and an info session about IFTSA. It's on Wednesday, October 7th from 5 p.m. on Zoom. And the Zoom links will be posted in our weekly newsletters. And we also have a fall welcome event where we talk about the different career options for food science, as well as different activities students can get involved as an undergraduate. And that's going to be on October 9th. And it's going to be on Zoom too. So this year we're starting a mentor-mentee program where upperclassmen can give you any schedule, career advice, or even just a friend to talk to. So signups are available now through October 14th. And you can sign up through the link in our weekly newsletter. So make sure to connect with us through Facebook and Instagram. Also make sure to let us know that you want to be added to our listserv through this email on the presentation. And thank you so much. And we hope to see you at our first general meeting on October 7th.
If anyone is interested in being added to the listserv, maybe you guys can drop your student email in the chat.
Yeah, I can get it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to have a presentation from Devo, the student organization for viticulture and enology, and Mackenzie Did you want to share your screen? I made you a co-host.
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay, great. And then afterwards, we're going to actually have some Q&A.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So howdy folks, my name is Mackenzie and I am the current president of DEVO, which is the Davis Enology and Viticulture Organization. And I love this club. It provides a platform for students in the department to make their own community, and you'll get to know all these people and they become your support system and people rooting for you. And also it gives you a chance to get to know professors because we hang out with them in a non-academic social way, and it's a really neat way to just integrate into the department. And my one regret with DEVO was not joining earlier. As a freshman, my mom was like, you should join DEVO. And I was like, Mom, it's a wine club. I'm not even 21. What can I do? But there's actually so much you can do in DEVO when you're under 21, and I didn't know that. Essentially, the one thing that you do have to be 21 for is Vitus, which is like this little club that's nestled within DEVO. And it every week we have a panel of wines from a certain area, and we either have a student, a faculty, or someone who's an industry leader present these to us, and we taste through them. And it's like an amazing way to expand your palate without breaking the bank. It's a really awesome resource. And we're going to try to figure out some way to do this virtually this year, so that's to be determined. Another really cool thing that we do is immersion trips. And we have both under 21 and over 21 immersion trips. And we visit a local wine region, and we usually rent a Airbnb, and it's such an awesome opportunity because we really receive special treatment for being UC Davis students, and we get an inside look into wineries' operations, and it's really cool. Another thing we also do is an international immersion trip every other summer, and we pay for essentially most of the travel expenses except for the plane tickets. We pay for 10 to 20 students for their board, for their food, for traveling within the country. And it's so cool because you get to learn about a wine region and taste wine with your peers. And we were going to do it this last summer. We were planning on going to France and Italy, but obviously we didn't end up going. So hopefully next summer. But so that's something to definitely look out for and a reason to get involved with DEVO because it's a really neat opportunity. Another thing that we are active in is home winemaking. And we receive fruit from some amazing wine regions like Calistoga. And we go and we harvest the fruit and we eat pizza and do some barefoot grape stomping, and we package the wine and make a ton of it that we just give it away. Like we load up this trailer that we pull behind on our bikes and we just pass them out to different houses. It's really fun, and it's a cool way to share with your friends, like, this is what I'm studying, this is something that I made myself, and it's a great experience for winemaking outside of the classroom. Another fun, we have several parties, but this is probably our biggest one, is our repeal party, which celebrates the repeal of prohibition. And we all dress up in 20s gear, and we load up on a party bus and we go to a winery in Napa, and there's unlimited wine, and professors come and they bring their families, and it's really fun. And the way we get all this money to be able to put on all these things is Winkler. And this is a dinner that we host, and it's in the Olive Grove. And families and people within the industry attend, and they receive amazing meals that chefs sponsor, as well as wine. And it gives students an opportunity to practice their hospitality and pouring. And this is really quite the event. I'm already planning it in May, and it's like the equivalent of planning a wedding. And so what we do with all this money is we're able to provide scholarships for our students, and we send usually 2 students to do an international harvest every year. And I think we sent, our last one, we sent Andrew to Canada and Kylie to New Zealand. And this is such an awesome way to be able to help our peers jumpstart their career in a really cool way. And so obviously we're not going to be able to do all the stuff that we typically do, but I hope that you guys can get excited for what Devo is going to be when things are able to return to normal a little bit. But that also doesn't mean that we can't do a lot of fun things, and we're still going to practice home winemaking, and we're working really hard to create a virtual platform where you can get to know your peers, because with school being online right now, it's even harder to meet the people in your classes. But it's so important to get involved with the department right now and meet these people, because they're the same people that are going to be in your classes for all 4 years. And so we want to be able to provide that platform to meet them and build that community. Another thing that we also do is the mentor-mentee program, and this is fantastic. We'll pair you up with someone who's been in the department for a little bit longer, and you can just text them and ask, like, which ones are my South, which ones are my North, and it's a good resource to have. And we have not yet set up our first meeting for Devo. I wanted to get you guys on the email list so that you can fill out a survey for what times you're available, because I want to make sure that all the new students are included. But something to look forward to is we have the VEN Welcome Barbecue is going to be this Thursday at 5:30. That's not a Devo thing, but it's a VEN thing, so you'll be seeing updates for that pretty soon. You can follow us on Facebook or on Instagram, and you can email me and send me your email, and I can get you on that listserv. But also, I included my personal number, and I just want you guys to know that I am so excited to meet you, and I am so excited you're in this department. I think it's such a special department, and I want you to know that you can reach out to me for anything that you need, and I'm here for you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I should point out, what I can do, Mackenzie, is give you a listserv of students who are admitted to viticulture, and just send that information so you can reach out to them directly. Would that be helpful?
Am I allowed to just put all the new students into the Devo email list?
Yes, and then if they don't want to get the email, they could always unsubscribe. So I think instead of having them put their email in the chat, it might be easier for me to give you the list of VEN students.
Mm-hmm.
That might be easier to coordinate.
That would be wonderful.
I'm sorry I didn't think about this for food science, everyone. But thank you for sharing your information in the chat. At this time, we're going to open up the student Q&A panel. And so our panelists will include the club presenters. So this is Maihan, Marai, and Mackenzie. So at this point, if you have any questions for them, we can try to turn on your microphone so you could ask the question. Maybe that would be easier, or if you feel comfortable typing your question in chat, we can monitor that as well.
I have a quick starter question for the clubs. I would like to know if your clubs, like Food Tech Club and Devo, if they're open clubs to like any major, or if you have to be in the major to join your clubs.
Well, for Food Tech Club, you definitely don't have to be a food science major. We have lots of people from like engineering, like chemical engineering, and like other majors. And I think like some people actually through this club, they decided to like switch into food science. So we're like open to everyone.
Sorry, before we continue, if you all could just introduce yourselves one more time and let us know what year you are in the program, and you know, what your focus is, something to that effect, just so people know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Maihan. I am a senior in food science, also the peer advisor, and my interest is in product development and sensory science. So those are like the expertise.
And what year are you, Maihan?
I'm a senior.
My name is Marai. I'm a 4th year in food science, and my study focus would be product development and food microbiome.
My name is Mackenzie Davis, and I am a fourth year viticulture and enology student, and I'm essentially studying to become a winemaker. To answer the question about the club being open, we're actually not even a UC Davis sanctioned club. We're an organization outside of that. We're actually a 501(c) nonprofit. So we actually have people who aren't even students participate in Devo, like adults in the town of Davis participate sometimes. And so we're definitely open to everyone.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, Mackenzie.
Me neither.
Okay, so one question that we got in the chat was, do you have any ideas of what Devo will look like this year? And I think you went a little bit, like did a general overview, but do you have any specific events that you're gonna maybe offer, like trivia, or I don't know.
So right now, I think that it's going to be mostly online besides the home winemaking. Just to start off, we'll probably transition later on when things become more safe. But in the spring quarter, what we were doing is having happy hours. So everyone would grab a glass of wine, and sometimes the professors would join in too, and we'd play trivia or Pictionary. And it was just a really fun way to like rewind and like visit with friends when we're apart from each other.
I have to say my main focus is food science, but I remember when you all did the repeal party and everyone showed up on campus to hop on the party bus. I was a little jealous. It looked really fun. And then I know you did some events where Hannah would bring in bagels and coffee occasionally during midterms or finals week. So it's really fun, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Food is a good incentive to get people involved.
And they share with your major advisor, so I support it. Are there any questions? And this is not just limited to the, to the clubs. This is your opportunity to talk to students and get their perspective about UC Davis classes, dining experience. So this is really open for you to chat with each other.
Specific to the department, I've also worked at the research winery, and I've done like a lot of harvest internships in the area. So if anyone has any questions specific to that too, here to help.
I sent you all an email with some pre-questions that we could talk about. And so were there any academic or personal setbacks that you may have encountered as a student that you're comfortable sharing? Maybe thinking about your first quarter or year at UC Davis?
For me, it was my second year, but I had chemistry, I think chemistry and biochem and all this hard class and physics I was supposed to take in 1 year or 1 quarter. And so I don't know if it's all, an option right now, but I took a study abroad for physics. So that is an option, taking all 3 quarters in 1 summer. So I think that was a really good experience for me.
Where did you do that experience, Mariah?
I did it in Cyprus, which is an island right next to Greece.
There you go. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's an 8-week session, but you get credit for the full physics series.
Yeah.
It always makes things better to do it on an island, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they take you every week to a different place in the island, which was really fun. So,
yeah. One question was, what was the hardest class you took as a food science major?
Would it be limited just to food science classes, or just like all the classes required for the major? Because I think like overall, I think biochemistry is probably the hardest class. Biz 103, it's like metabolism. But like, like once you get over that, like everything, it just like seems so much like easier, So like, it's just about like pushing through, and then like going to tutoring too, and just like asking for help.
Now viticulture students also have to take biochemistry. So Maihan or some of the other panelists, can you explain why that course was challenging for you and maybe what resources you used to kind of overcome that?
Sorry about that. Why was biochemistry challenging? I think for me, I'm not really great at like memorizing things. And I feel like it was just like a lot of material in one quarter. So I think it's just something you have to like spend a lot of time on and like really like understand like how things work in order to like really grasp the concepts.
Mm-hmm. Mackenzie, did you take biochemistry?
Yes, it was the hardest class I've ever taken in my life. I will admit that I got a D in it, but it was okay. It was fine.
So just to let everyone know, classes for some people may be more difficult than others. And so I know for this major in particular, a lot of people face challenges with that biochemistry. So from a major advisor perspective, when I help you plan your schedule, I try to make that quarter a bit easier for you. I do not recommend Biz 103, Physics 7C, and microbiology in the same quarter. So we'll try to work with you to make sure you have a balanced schedule. But yes, the majority may face challenges. It doesn't mean you are definitely going to face a challenge. I want you to be prepared for that. So I want to put a positive spin on it so you're not like, oh God, biochemistry.
And I think there is a key word of tutoring, right? So there is tutoring available and it's free. So students, like for any class that you're taking, if there's, there's that resource for you. So if you feel like you don't do really well on a midterm and you're feeling kind of down about things, I definitely encourage you to make an appointment with the tutoring center. Just because then that could be really helpful in turning your quarter around. Mackenzie, there was a specific question for you. How were the internships balanced with going to school? Were they all sparkling?
So working at the research winery is, I think, a great place to start out with if you haven't had any harvest experience before. And so you work there until school starts, and then you can continue to work there when school starts, and you can intermix it with your school class schedule. They're really flexible, and that's awesome. And then a lot of people work sparkling harvests because they end so early. And the only thing is you have to be 21 to work at most of them, which was difficult for me. So I worked in Southern California because they let me work when I was under 21. And then right now, luckily, because it is so stinking hot up here and it's getting hotter every year, the harvests are starting to end earlier. My last day of harvest was yesterday. And so they're actually, if you look hard enough, there's some harvests that end right before school starts. And it's usually the smaller wineries, and those are just the ones that I usually apply to because they're okay with letting me leave a little bit early for school.
Awesome. And then we have a question. I'm really into herbs and spices. Is there any chance I can learn about them as an undergraduate?
I think like for the food science major, a lot of our classes, they like focus on like, it's not like on like specific like food items, it's more like on topics like food chemistry, like food properties, food sensory science. But I do know that there's like some first year seminars that focus on like, I don't know, like certain ingredients or like topics. So I think there's like one on like Indian spices, like I've heard about that one. So I really recommend looking into first year seminars because they have like really interesting topics. And it's like usually like reserved just for like first years and transfers too. So you guys get the first pick.
They had a seminar about chocolate, and that one looked really interesting too. But these seminars, they may change. And so if you're interested or you're still looking for maybe 1 or 2 units to add to your schedule, you're going to go to for firstyearseminar.ucdavis.edu. And on that webpage, you could find a list of seminars.
I see a question for about internships and undergrad research that we've done. So I guess like if you're interested in research, then the best place to start is like looking at like different faculties and like their research papers and see like what you're interested in. And then after that is just about reaching out to them. A lot of students like start around their second year or like third year, because like the first year is like spent like kind of like exploring what your interests are and just like getting adjusted to kind of like being at like a big university. Things that I've done, I currently do undergraduate research at the Olive Center. So I just kind of like got my position by like talking to the manager, Shirley. For internships, we sent out a lot of emails to the department as well as Food Tech Club. So I would recommend just like looking out for those. And if something like really piques your interest, like just go ahead and like apply for it. It doesn't hurt. Yeah, there's like a lot of internship opportunities. You just gotta like, just keep an eye out for them and just like apply for everything. Stephanie, you're muted.
Thank you, Maihan. I was asking Mackenzie, how did she find her position with Sparkling?
So actually on the VEN website, there's, I think, like a VEN list of jobs. And it's fantastic because all the companies there are specifically reaching out, like, we want your students, like, list our job here. And so when you reach out to them, like, super excited because it's a Davis student. So I usually use that list when I'm looking for jobs. And it has all the important information of like dates that they want you and stuff like that.
Unfortunately, we don't have that same list for food science, but we're working on it.
There is a handshake. It's like Aggie Handshake. So there's companies who post on there for internships and job opportunities.
Oh, I also want to mention that every spring the food science department has a food industry fair. So it's just specific for like food science majors. So it's like really nice because like, you know, at the big career fairs, like everyone at the school is like there and you're gonna have to like kind of like compete with like people from like other majors, but like our fair is like more intimate, so you pretty much get a chance to like talk to like any companies that you want. So that would be in spring, or actually end of winter.
So I have a general question. With everything going on, I know it feels really crazy. So how do you take care of yourself, and what do you do to relax and deal with stress?
I go out to eat with my aunt all the time when it's school. Also, I'll go to the gym, even though it's not open right now. Like running helps me relieve stress, but mostly food, probably with your food science friends. Yeah.
Yeah, food helps. And also when I feel like overwhelmed, I don't know, like I just like writing things down and just like organizing my thoughts. Like I also bullet journal too, so that helps.
I think that even though right now we're not being super social, it's important to make social time, like whether that's interacting with your housemates or talking to people on the phone. Like since COVID hit, I've been calling everyone. And for me, that's just helps me feel connected to the people in my life that I really value.
Call your parents. They'll really appreciate it.
Oh, go ahead, Liz.
No, I just wanted to also mention too that we are having Spencer from the Internship and Career Center come at 2 today, this afternoon, and he'll be discussing Handshake and a lot of the other resources that the Internship and Career Center have. So that is something that we'll kind of go more in depth in at our meeting at 2 o'clock.
I have another question for the panelists that students may be interested in, especially for freshmen. They are mostly taking GEs right now, and they have a lot of questions about what courses they should take. And so reflecting on your experience as a freshman, or just in general, what are some classes outside the major that you particularly enjoyed? GEs.
Well, for me, even if they aren't food science related, they're still like food related classes. So I really like His 12, which is history of food. So basically you like learn about how like humans started like cooking food and like all that. So like I think that was a pretty interesting class. It's a good like SS or AHGE.
I took intro to beer making. It was like FST3, and it's not a required course, but it's a RE, not really a GE, but you need your REs to graduate too. So that was kind of fun as a freshman taking that course.
I took an archaeology class, which I think was, I want to say Ant 2, and I got to help the professor do space archaeology research, where we found like llama traps through like Google Earth. It was super fun. And then in lab, we like threw spears and like chucked rocks and stuff. Really valuable stuff. I think a piece of advice for when you're taking your GEs is it's hard to like keep perspective. Like I'm sitting through chemistry and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. This sucks. Like, what does this have to do with my major? And I think in retrospect, I can see how our majors are perfectly lined up so that every class has value, and being able to understand chemistry and speak the chemistry language like later in your career is really valuable, and it's going to give you an edge. And even classes that you have to take like public speaking or something, and all of like developing these soft skills, everything's going to have a purpose and set you up for success.
We have a question. I think somebody missed this, but how does a student join DEVO? And I think we'll send a listserv for viticulture and enology majors. But if you're a food science and technology major, you probably won't be automatically put on that listserv. So Mackenzie, could you just put your ucdavis.edu email in the chat? And if somebody isn't a viticulture and enology major necessarily, they can just reach out to you, or if there's a general DEVO email, that can work as well.
So this question kind of aligns with, those challenging classes that we mentioned and how you deal with stress. Is how do you stay motivated when you're taking that chemistry class and you're like, oh my God, why did I pick this major? I don't understand it. What kind of gets you through that slump other than your major advisors?
Well, for me, I just think, oh, it's only like one quarter, like only 10 weeks. So like if I can get through this, then it'll all be over.
I think of it as I don't want to stay another year in college, so I better get through this right now, or I have to keep going on and on. So yeah, that's how I get through it.
But I also think it's important not to put too much pressure on yourself. Like there's some classes where I've just like eaten away at my soul with stress, and everything's going to be okay. Like you'll get through it and it'll all work out.
Also having friends that you can like ask questions about, or like if you have any questions in school, that really helps, I think. I met like Maihan and other food science people that help me all the time, which is really nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, talking to upperclassmen helps too, because like when I was a second year, like I had no idea what my major was even about. So then like I joined Food Tech Club and I asked like a bunch of like juniors and seniors and they really helped me.
So where are they hosting all of the Zoom house parties? Just kidding. I have a very dry sense of humor. What are some fun things? I know it's different with COVID, but imagine we were on campus. What are some fun things that students can do to get involved outside of Devo or Food Tech Club?
I volunteered at the pantry, which is like the school hosts gives out free food to the community, and so that was really fun doing that for like when you're free, and it's just once a week and volunteering. You get to meet so many people around the community, not just UC Davis students, but around the community. That was really fun for me.
In my first year, I joined tons of clubs and I joined Greek life. I was trying it all. And I'm really glad I did that because I found the things that I liked and the stuff that I didn't like. And so now I'm just doing I'm with the clubs that I really like. So I would encourage people to do that. Like if there's something you've been interested in and have never tried before, Davis has a club for it and a community for it. And it's such a great time to learn new things. I had always wanted to do rock climbing, but I didn't know anyone who did it, and so I just joined the club, and now it's I have a network and I practice with them, and it's so cool. You can learn anything.
There's also a bunch of fun stuff happening on campus. There's a craft center, and then there's cooking classes too. So you can always look for these interesting things to do.
So we have about 15 minutes remaining. And so if any of you have additional questions you would like to ask to the major advisors or the students, feel free to ask your questions. Right now we're going to stay on until noon. But just to let you know, for the 2 to 4 o'clock session, there's going to be a presentation from the Internship and Career Center. There's going to be a Kahoot trivia game, so that's going to be really exciting. And then we're going to have some speakers, our department chairs for food science and viticulture and enology. So we definitely want you to come back and stick around for that. Right?
I think it's safe to say that if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. You can always send an email. Ooh, I do want to put in BFTV advising at ucdavis.edu. This is the ticketing system that we use also too. So sometimes as major advisors, we get a lot of emails and they just kind of keep on coming, especially at certain times of the quarter or the year. And so the BFTV advising at ucdavis.edu, it opens up a ticketing system that both Stephanie and I see, some of our other colleagues see. And so if you don't get a response from us, this is probably a good place to send a message as well. We have backup if one of us is on vacation or if we're out sick, so that type of thing. So definitely feel free to reach out to us there. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think what else, but yeah, you can always ask specific questions there too.
If you do send us an email though, please send an email to one outlet. So either to the BFTV advising, which is preferred. If you don't get a response, you will get a response, just don't send the same email to me and Elizabeth separately. If you know what I mean. Sometimes we get 3 of the same emails from all of our separate accounts, and it just makes it really difficult for us. So email us once, we'll definitely get back to you. Yeah.
But if you don't have any other questions, feel free to.
Well, one last question I have for the panelists is, what advice do you have for students? What are some things you wish you would have known as a freshman? I know it's 2 questions, but.
I wish I knew that, like, my freshman year, I was just making friends in the dorms, but like go out and reach out to clubs. I wish I knew about Food Tech Club earlier. And because the people who are in Food Tech Club are mostly food scientists or food science majors, they will stick with you for the next like 3 years. You have literally all your classes every single day with them. And so it's nice having a friend around and being able to sit and go to classes with. Yeah.
I second Mariah. I think like as a freshman, you have like a lot of time to explore that you might not have so much time of because you could be like busy with like other like schoolwork and all that stuff when you're like when you hit your sophomore or junior year. So I think freshman year is like a really good time to explore. And I would just say like put yourself out there. When I was a freshman, I didn't really do much. And like I didn't think about joining Food Tech Club because I don't know, I was like kind of shy and I was like, oh, like everyone like already like knows each other. And like, I don't know, I didn't want to like feel left out. But like everyone there is like super nice. So just like join us, just talk to us. Like we're happy to help out and like help you like adjust to like UCD.
Especially if you're like shy or anything, join the mentor-mentee program. There's a link signed up in our weekly email. So yeah.
I wish that in my first year I was brave enough to talk to my professors. I think that they really want to meet you and form those friendships with you, and I was too scared to talk to them. And a lot of times they're in their office hours like twiddling their thumbs waiting for people to come in, and they're so excited when you do. And I wish that I would have done that sooner, because your professors are just an amazing resource. I think that they have their students and then they graduate and become like leaders in the industry, and they know all of them, and they're like an awesome plug for getting jobs in different countries or here locally, and it's a really cool resource.
Also, I think people got assigned faculty advisors, but make sure you talk to your faculty advisors because they might be able to give you lab options and tell you, oh, you can work at my lab. And so that might be a really good way to start out too. So make sure to talk to them.
If you're a viticulture and enology student, you haven't been assigned yet, but I'm working on it. So it'll happen within the next week. Don't worry, you didn't miss an email. Stephanie, was there anything else?
Not that I can think of. So don't be shy. If you have a question, you could go ahead and take off your microphone and just have a conversation, and anything's on the table. I know when I came in as a transfer student, I think for me, it was difficult understanding the units, right? Everyone said start off at 12 units. And I thought, oh, well, I took 18 units at community college. I can definitely take 18 units at UC Davis. It did not go well my first quarter. So I kind of want to get the students' perspective of, what's the most amount of units that you've taken at UC Davis and how did you balance that schedule?
I think it's important your freshman year to not take too little units. A lot of people take, I think, the bare minimum, and then that kind of starts to add up later on that you weren't getting those prerequisites done, and now you can't take your upper divisions when you want to. And so I think it's important to not overwhelm yourself, but also not to put everything off because you do want to take those upper divisions eventually. And so I usually take between 14 and 17 units a quarter, and that breaks up everything pretty perfectly where I never have to take a ton of stuff all at once.
I actually think it's like good to start out slower at first. So as a freshman, like you're gonna be taking like chemistry and like calculus and all that stuff. And chemistry is like 5 units. So like that's a lot of work for just like one class. So I think starting off at like 12 or 13 is good. My first quarter, like I took 12 units and I thought that was really easy. So then I skipped over to like 19 units and that was like way too much. Like I don't recommend that. So like if you feel like 12 or 13 units, like you're doing good, then I think maybe adding like maybe like another 3 units to 15 is good, but like don't make like a sudden jump from like 13 to 19 units because you're gonna suffer.
The most units I took, I think, was like 21 units. That was way too much, but I managed through it. But I think recommendation wise would be like 15 units would be like the right amount. And I also took 12 units as like when I started, and I thought I wasn't gonna like graduate on time. So I like did like mix match, but now I have like nothing to take right now. So make sure you balance that through your 4 years, like know what units you want to like make it so it's like all equal, or know which classes are hard so you can take like an easy class with it. Those kind will help because now I have like nothing to take.
Going in on your first year, having your 4-year plan is so important, and I think it just takes off so much stress, and it's like there's no surprises.
Yeah, follow the 4-year plan that's on the food science website. That's a really like nice guide to follow.
I can also help with the 4-year plans as well as like make any adjustments that you need, like based on like course difficulty, or like if you want to add any like minors in there.
So I will say something about the 4-year suggested plan or recommended plan. Everyone's plan is going to look a little bit different, but the reason why we have this 4-year recommended plan is so you can have an idea of where those classes should be placed, because for both majors you need to complete the prerequisites before you take those upper division classes, and for both majors the majority of your upper division classes are only going to be offered once a year. So if you go a little bit off track, it will delay your time to graduation. So that guide is really in place just to give you an idea of what to expect. But if you're taking courses over the summer, if you're studying abroad, that could change things a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean you're delaying your time to graduation. It just means you're on a different track compared to some of your peers.
Yeah, and I think also too, so since all of you are incoming students, get through this first quarter. It's going to be different. It's different than any fall quarter that we've had, right? Everything's all virtual. And so keep the plan that like we discussed, or if you need to make adjustments, we can do that too. But like try to give yourself just like a little time to adjust. And then if you have questions, make an appointment with a peer advisor, a major advisor. And, you know, we're here to kind of help you kind of grow and add or take away and move things around. None of the plans that I came up with were meant to be set in stone. They were supposed to be like, you know, we can move things around. We can be flexible to a certain degree. And so I think just try to like get adjusted to this quarter because it's different. We don't know what winter quarter is going to look like. It could be more of the same. It could be different. And same thing with spring quarter. This year is just going to be, it's unpredictable. If anything, 2020 has showed us that it's unpredictable. So if you need assistance and you need to come back, then feel free to do so.
So we have about 2 minutes left, and I think it's really important for us to put out there that this is your college journey, right? So there is a lot of responsibility on you to speak up and to speak out. Sometimes as an advisor, I can get really caught up in these schedules and I'll just start typing away. And if you're looking at me, you're like, you know what, Stephanie, I don't think I could do biochemistry, physics, and microbiology. let me know, because there's more than one way we could design your schedule. And it's important that you let us know what worked for you and what didn't. And so I encourage you to let us know that. Don't feel that you have to be stuck into certain classes. Take advantage of those drop deadlines. Each course has a 10 or 20-day drop deadline. So if you experience that class and you feel like, I don't know if I can handle the syllabus, it's a lot, drop that course before the deadline, and we could figure out what other course we could add in to replace that. For your first year as a freshman, everything counts, every course counts for something, whether it's units towards graduation, your major, GEs, it's all going to count, even freshman seminars. So take advantage of that time, because junior and senior year, it's going to pick up in pace and it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But what I like to believe is that as you grow as a student, even though the courses get more challenging, you're going to be strong enough to face that, right? So it's all just, we're here to help you develop. We're here to support you. Let us know what you need, and we'll try to make it work. So I just wanted to put that out there. And we're at time right now. It's 12 o'clock, so we'll come back at 2, and we'll talk a little bit more if you have other questions, okay?
And
Any final thoughts, Liz?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the 2 o'clock meeting has a different Zoom link. So if you are, hopefully you are rejoining us at 2, but make sure that you don't click on the same link, because it'll never start. The meeting will never start.
Do they